This trial is the culmination of decisions made by one person, the defendant. Those decisions have forever altered the futures of 3 families, and of you also, Mackenzie. And your decisions forever robbed Dominic and Davion of the futures that they had before them. If there is one thing that can be taken away from this case, as painful as it is this. Every decision we make is important. Every action we make is important. Regardless of whether the decision is a good one or a bad one, or the actions are good or not, the result is the same. The consequences ripple through time and affect many more people than one might think at the time of the decision. In criminal cases, the state carries the greatest burden under our law, proof beyond a reasonable doubt. As I previously stated, I considered all the evidence presented. And at this point, I would like to comment specifically on Exhibit 802, the crash video. This is the type of evidence you can never unsee. You can never forget the visual or audio of this exhibit. It is chilling and tragic. As you review that exhibit, you know that you are watching the oncoming deaths of 2 people, and there is nothing that will stop it. The video clearly shows the purpose and intent of the defendant. She chose a course of death and destruction that day. Exhibit 802 crystallizes the deadly decision-making of the defendant. She morphs from a responsible driver to literal hell on wheels as she makes her way down the street. Mackenzie alone made the decision to drive the car, to drive an obscure route, a route she visited a few days before, and a route not routinely taken by her. Mackenzie.
Most dramatic reactions of teenagers who were sentenced to life imprisonment. In this video, we've compiled the reactions of teenage criminals who were sentenced to life imprisonment. At just 17, Tylee Hadley orchestrated a horrific event straight out of a movie plot. He threw a party, keeping a sinister plan hidden, only to unleash a nightmare. After popping 3 ecstasy pills, he savagely murdered his parents, Mary Jo and Blake Hadley, with a claw hammer amidst the chaos of the gathering. The stench of death hung heavy in the air, casting a chilling pall over Michael Mandel, the unsuspecting confidant to whom Tyler confessed. Tyler's descent into darkness stemmed from his ongoing struggles with substance abuse and a troubling history of criminal behaviour, including arson, vandalism, theft, battery, and even injuring a child while joyriding in his father's car without permission. His parents' attempts to intervene and help him with his drug issues proved to be the tipping point, triggering a violent response that sealed his fate as someone beyond redemption. During his trial, the prosecution sought the death penalty, but Tyler's age spared him that ultimate punishment. Instead, he was sentenced to life in prison, a decision revisited in 2016 and again in 2018.
For the horrible acts I've done, I committed.
This apology followed Hadley's brother speaking in court.
I guess what I want is for him to get the maximum penalty possible, which I understand is life in prison without parole.
Other family members who faced Tyler in court included his mother's niece. Tyler had the audacity to speak in court and apologise for his actions. However, his brother directly asked for the harshest sentence, undermining Tyler's apology.
And brutally murdered her own father, and his body was found on April the 9th, 2021. The body was found in a sleeping bag with 70 stab wounds, but that's not even the worst part. Apparently, they tried to dismember the body with saws and set it on fire before they left it in the garage. What could drive 2 kids to commit such a horrific act? In court, Sierra dropped a bombshell. Despite her completely lifeless expression, she read a letter painting Daniel.
In April 2021, a horrifying murder shook Las Vegas, involving Sierra Housef and her boyfriend, Aaron Guerrero. The teenage pair received a tough sentence, facing the possibility of parole after 22 years for the brutal killing of Sierra's father, 45-year-old Daniel Housef. The sentencing took place in Clark County District Court, where the details of Daniel Housef's death were revealed through through the coroner's autopsy report. The community was deeply disturbed by the gruesome nature of the crime, as Daniel endured an unimaginable 70 stab wounds and was found burned from head to toe. Before the sentencing, the courtroom was filled with a solemn atmosphere as family members and defendants had the opportunity to speak. Sierra Housef made a shocking claim of abuse by her father, while the victim's sister strongly condemned the perpetrators, labelling their actions as unforgivable. Daniel Housef's mother spoke about the pain in her heart that medication and counselling couldn't ease, highlighting the emotional impact of the crime on the family. During the sentencing, Aaron Guerrero apologised to the court, and the presiding judge expressed a desire to alleviate the suffering while acknowledging the limits of her role. The sentencing concluded a plea deal accepted by Sierra Housef and Aaron Guerrero to avoid the death penalty, especially considering Guerrero's age at the time of the crime. The teenage couple's relationship faced opposition from their parents upon their plan to leave for Los Angeles to continue seeing each other. The discovery of Daniel Housef's lifeless body triggered a swift and unsettling sequence of events, leading to the arrest of Sierra and Guerrero in Utah just 4 days after the murder. Authorities found a disturbing video of Sierra Housef's phone where the couple callously discussed her father's killing.
I don't know what to say.
Welcome back to our YouTube channel. After
Day
murdering, day 3 after murdering somebody.
Wow! Don't put that on the camera.
It was worth it.
And we had sex a lot today.
It was worth it. I got plenty of sex. So I was payment for doing it.
And no bleeding this time. We got through that. We overcame.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The situation didn't just stun the folks in the neighbourhood, it also got them thinking about what was really going on in the Housef family and what might push young people to do such awful things. In court, we saw the victim's family grappling with immense pain and heard all the unsettling details of the crime. In the end, Sierra Housef and Aaron Guerrero got what was coming to them, a sentence that will keep them locked away for a long, long time.
Conspiracy to commit robbery. Count 9, robbery with use of a deadly weapon. In addition to the $25 administrative assessment fee, the $150 DNA testing fee, the $3 DNA assessment fee, you're going to be ordered to pay $2,125 in extradition fees. You're also going to be ordered to pay $5,000 in restitution to victims of crime, and that's going to be ordered jointly and separately with the co-defendant. On count 1, you're going to be sentenced to 48 to 120 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. On count 2, you're going to be sentenced to life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 20 years has been served, plus a consecutive 24 to 60 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections for the deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 1. On count 3, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 2. Count 4, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 3. Count 5, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 4. Count 6, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 5. Count 7, you're going to be sentenced to 19 to 48 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 6. Count 8, you're going to be sentenced to 28 to 72 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 7. Count 9, you're going to be sentenced to 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections, plus a consecutive 72 to 180 months in the Nevada Department of Corrections with deadly weapon enhancement. That's ordered to run concurrent to count 8. You have 555 days credit for time served. That is a total aggregate sentence of life in the Nevada Department of Corrections with the possibility of parole after 22 years has been served.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Mayor, with regards to Ms. Housef, she's asking the court if the court can accept that letter that she wrote out.
Yes, if you could approach Mr. Stamp through the website, found the letter. All right, thank you. All right, thank you guys.
As a homicide detective, I'd seen many death scenes, but this is the one I get to relive every day.
The district attorney's office says they are pleased with the result and thank the attorney general's office for its support through the lengthy appeal process. In the end, not even Griego himself could convince the judge he deserved another chance.
Even the worst of us can make progress. Even the ones who've been through hell and back can still make it.
Meanwhile, Griego's girlfriend is heartbroken. She texted me saying she loves Nehemiah and that the sentence does not change her love for him. Well, now that we know Griego's fate, the DA's office says it's time for us to turn our focus to helping those directly affected by this tragedy. Reporting Brandon Evans, KOAT Action 7 News.
On January the 19th, 2013, the South Valley community in New Mexico was rocked by a tragic event that left everyone reeling. A mass shooting took the lives of 5 members of the Griego family, sending shockwaves through this tight-knit neighborhood. The heart-wrenching incident unfolded when 15-year-old Nehemiah Griego, the oldest son, turned against his own family, leaving a deep scar on the community. The details of the tragedy were devastating. Armed with firearms, Nehemiah tragically ended the lives of his parents and 3 younger siblings in their home near Albuquerque. Among the victims were his parents, Greg and Sarah Griego, who were deeply involved in prison ministry. The nightmarish ordeal began when Nehemiah shot his mother, followed by a confrontation with his younger brother, Zephaniah, resulting in another tragic loss. He then proceeded to take the lives of his 2 younger sisters before waiting for his father to return home. When Greg Griego arrived, he was met with a horrifying fate, adding to the brutality of the crime. Nehemiah's attempt to deceive his father's church community only added to the tragedy of the situation. On the way to church, Nehemiah had 2 rifles stowed in the van, where instead of telling his girlfriend the truth, he spun a false tale about a tragic accident. When the pastor received distressing news about Greg Griego, he confronted Nehemiah, who then revealed the chilling reality: his family had been killed. Concerned, the pastor and a retired homicide detective from the congregation decided to accompany Nehemiah to the crime scene. During the journey, the detective sensed something amiss and promptly dialed 911. In subsequent discussions with the police, Nehemiah opened up about his troubling emotions, admitting to thoughts of suicide and homicide. He confessed to retrieving firearms from his parents' closet, alleging that his father had taught him and his mother how to handle them. To compound the situation, Nehemiah even sent his girlfriend a photo of his deceased mother via email. Originally, his plan was to flee, commit further acts of violence, and ultimately engage in a deadly standoff with law enforcement. Nehemiah was just 15 when he committed these crimes. Still considered a kid, but in New Mexico, the law treats minors charged with serious crimes like adults. Yet because he was so young, he couldn't be given the death penalty or life without parole. The victims weren't just Greg and Sarah Griego. 3 younger children, Zephaniah, Jael, and Angelina, were also lost in the tragedy. It wasn't just a blow to the Griego family, but to the whole community, where Greg had been a chaplain for the fire department. Legal proceedings were complicated, involving mental health evaluations. In 2015, Nehemiah pleaded guilty to lesser charges after spending time at a treatment center. Family members hoped for a focus on rehab. However, in 2019, things changed when a judge decided Nehemiah couldn't be rehabilitated. Now 22, he faced adult consequences, possibly spending the rest of his life behind bars. Despite efforts for a lighter sentence and ongoing treatment, details remain private due to his age during the crimes. In the end, Nehemiah Griego was handed 3 concurrent life sentences plus 7 years, with credit for the 2,476 days already served. A stipulation dictated he must serve 30 years before parole eligibility. Currently, Nehemiah Griego is held in the Lea County Correctional Facility, marking the conclusion of a tragic chapter in the South Valley community's history. During his adult hearing, Griego surprised many by expressing remorse, facing surviving family members and apologizing while acknowledging his guilt.
Sitting on the benches in the courtroom.
I am sorry for taking our parents and our sins. You know, I wish I can take it back, but reality is that we can't.
He told them he is healed and is ready to move on and into the world.
I want no retaliation. I love you guys, and I want to see the best for y'all. And whatever you may do, and I do pray for you guys to have healing the way I'm having healing.
Aunts and uncles were also in the courtroom, some of the few people who supported Griego's release from jail.
Nobody's ever shown me that kind of mercy and that kind of compassion the way you guys have. And I'm so damn grateful for you guys.
He said something to his uncle that really angered his sister.
You've basically been a second father to me. the father I wish I had.
You can hear his sister start crying in the courtroom. You can hear her storm out of the courtroom in tears. Griego glanced at her but carried on. He then spoke to the judge after addressing his family.
Even the worst of us can make progress. Even the ones that have been through hell and back can still make it.
Telling the judge he's ready to go out into the world and make a better life for himself.
16-year-old Dylan Schumacher from Springfield went through a heartbreaking ordeal when he was accused of causing the death of a 23-month-old Austin Smith, a child he was babysitting. After a quick deliberation on December 9th, 2013, the state Supreme Court jury found Schumacher guilty of intentional murder. The tragic incident unfolded in the Springfield home where Schumacher lived with his girlfriend and parents in March of the same year. During the trial, disturbing details emerged about the events leading to Austin's death. Schumacher, who took the stand to defend himself, confessed to losing his temper with the toddler just days before his second birthday. His frustration boiled over into a violent outburst involving slapping, spanking, slamming and punching the child repeatedly in the head with a pillow. These actions resulted in fatal injuries for Austin. The trial placed a heavy burden on Erie County District Attorney Frank Sedita III. While Schumacher claimed he never meant to kill the toddler, proving intentional murder, especially in cases involving children, presented a significant challenge. Sedita acknowledged the difficulty of convicting jurors beyond a reasonable doubt of Schumacher's intent to cause the child's death. In cases like this, proving intentional murder is one of the toughest tasks for a prosecutor, Sedita remarked, underscoring the challenge of establishing intent in the juror's mind. Despite Schumacher's admission of guilt and the gruesome nature of the crime, the legal battle was not without its twists. Schumacher's defense lawyer, Joseph Terranova, sought a verdict on lesser charges that would have resulted in a lengthy prison sentence but potentially spared his client a lifetime behind bars. Terranova argued for a more nuanced punishment, emphasizing that Schumacher acknowledged the consequences but believed the punishment should fit the crime appropriately.
I didn't mean to kill Austin. Ashley, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
Dylan Schumacher walked into a state Supreme courtroom pleading his case, telling his victim's mother and the court he's remorseful for what he did. Schumacher was sentenced Friday for beating 23-month-old Austin Smith last March. Before the sentence was handed down, Schumacher and his defense attorney fought for the minimum sentence, 15 years to life.
I can't take back what was done. I wish I could. I would give my life for Austin. I loved him a lot.
Austin Smith was completely defenseless. That's a given. But there were other dynamics at work there, including my client's inability to either control his anger or frustration and his inexperience in babysitting.
Based on his short life now, what is to say he won't do this again?
Well, we don't know that. I think it's completely unlikely. It was a situational, circumstantial thing.
The trial wrapped up with the jury finding Schumacher guilty of intentional murder. Now, as an adult in the eyes of the law, Schumacher was looking at the possibility of spending 25 to life in prison. The impact on the family members involved was clear as the loved ones of the deceased child grappled with a mix of sorrow and forgiveness. Schumacher's sentencing, set for January 10th, could change his life forever. If the judge decided on the harshest punishment, Schumacher, now treated as an adult, wouldn't have a shot at parole until he was 41, facing a bleak prospect of spending the rest of his days locked up.
On July 23rd, 2013, in a phone call to your mother from the holding center, you stated, and I got a quote from the court reporter, "I am a 16-year-old blonde. Probably all I have to do is cry in front of the jury, and they're going to feel sorry for me," end quote.
Afterwards, Schumacher was sentenced to 25 years to life behind bars.
During the trial, there were talks about a plea deal that Schumacher supposedly turned down. Terranova said his client had been offered a deal for manslaughter with a set sentence of 25 years and a chance for parole in 21 years. But Sedita disagreed, saying the seriousness of the crime required a tough approach. In the courtroom, emotions were intense, especially among the relatives of the child who passed away. Rita Little, Austin Smith's great-grandma, talked about justice being done, but also stressed stressed the importance of forgiveness. Tracy Smith, the grandma, recognized the tragedy for both Austin and Schumacher, understanding that at 16, Schumacher's life was essentially over. A poignant moment came when Schumacher, upon hearing the guilty verdict, bowed his head and looked at the defense table, described by his lawyers as quiet. The trial of Dylan Schumacher, with its grim details and the challenge of proving intent, ended as a sad chapter in the legal history of the South Valley community. Thanks for watching our video. For more content like this, press the subscribe button.